Kokilan, thank you for joining me today. So, like we discussed, I'm seeing that your team, Paper Planes Group at Remax Metropolis, is seeing an influx of listings that are for lease specifically.
Mhm.
What are you experiencing at this time as far as the market is concerned? Why are we seeing more listings for lease, do you think? Why are people looking to rent at this time?
So on the landlord side, personally, so far, it's the middle or end of June. We have done 6 leases, and all of those 6 leases were on the landlord side. And out of one of those deals, we represented the tenant and the landlord. And out of those 6 leases, four of them were properties that we purchased either the end of last year or in the beginning of this year. So for us personally, it is more of the investors that are giving us the lease business. And on the tenant side, in particular, 2 of them were relocations. So people coming from, other provinces or other countries, and 3 of them were normal tenants bouncing around from one tenanted property to another. As far as the market is concerned, I know, some people who are looking at their finances, with the cost of borrowing going up and the pre-approval amount probably changing, or people just wanting to wait it out to see how the market goes. There could be, tenants who are just choosing to rent for another year to see how things work out. But personally, for us, it is mainly on the landlord side.
Makes sense. And that's really interesting. So the two things that I took away that were critical there was that one, you're dealing with more investor clients.
Mhm.
Do you think there's a particular reason your investor clients are choosing to rent and not sell right now? Is there something probing this? Are they seeing good rental income? What is happening around that?
I think it's a mix of both. I mean, our primary um uh how do you say it, advice is, real estate is always a long term. If you don't need to sell, you don't need to sell. Out of the 6 leases, I think 3 of them are long term lease properties that people had for years, and 4 of them were recent, so it would be too quick for someone to sell anyways.
Right.
And the rent is always going to be there, right? So people always ask, if I buy a rental property, how is the rental market? And my quick answer is, if it's in the GTA, you should be fine. I mean, most of our properties have lease in a matter of days, with multiple offers or over asking. So the demand is there for rentals always, as of recent years in particular.
That, that's really interesting. And I recently leased a property too, and that's why I really wanted to have a conversation with you guys, because you guys are doing more transactions than we're seeing on average as far as the leases are concerned.
Mhm.
And so when you're talking to your investor clients, when you're educating your investor clients, with the lease I did as an example, market rent today, we went over asking, like you said, and it happened very quickly. 20 showing, 24 hours, multiple offers, leased over asking. And this was a property that I couldn't sell. It was sitting on the market for 60 days.
Mhm.
And so what we're trying to sell now is a cash flowing investment property with market rent, for example, for that property being 3,000. When you run the numbers, even with interest rates and everything else, when I ran the numbers with the client, we recognized that if we sold it at full asking today, a potential buyer at full asking might be losing, say, $750 a month out of pocket.
Mhm.
But when you accounted for principal and interest is cost of doing business.
Mhm.
The principal itself being, say, $800 a month over 12 months was $9,600.
Mhm.
And on a $900,000 investment, if the appreciation was even 1% per year,
Mhm.
that still meant that you had a 6 or 7% return on investment, which you're not going to get in a bank or a GIC or anything really right now.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So with that, and the second point you made there, you said that, some of the tenants are relocating. They're, based on what you're telling me, it doesn't sound like they're relocating because rents are cheaper. They're
It's just the
relocating.
jobs are here,
That's
right?
right.
There's good people with 6-figure incomes, great credit, and I think there's more to come.
Yeah, definitely. And so with everything that you're seeing now that you and your team are experiencing, is there any advice you would give a landlord at this time, and any advice you would give a tenant at this time? Because it sounds like things are very competitive.
Mhm.
And if we're seeing multiple offers, how should a landlord prepare and how should a tenant prepare to be engaged in a situation like this?
So also, to add to what you said, specifically in the first few months of COVID, I felt like it was a similar situation where people are actually selling and choose to, lease for a year or so. But these people, they, obviously own properties for years. They have the cash, but no real, credit that has been established in the past few years because they really didn't need any credit, or sufficient income documents to show. So actually last February, I leased a property in Vaughan. I think it was for 3,700. We had 40 showings, 12 offers, and at least for like $4,100. But these people didn't realize that rentals are equally or more competitive, right? So right now, I don't actually see specifically on my end where people are selling and choosing to rent. It could be happening in certain pockets, but rentals are still competitive, just like last year. The advice I can give for a landlord is case by case, right? Run your numbers along with your mortgage interest, your mortgage payment, your taxes, insurance, and any other costs, and see what the rental income is. And even if you're not breaking even, if you're going to be paying $400, $500 a month out of your pocket, if you're okay with that, in the long term, it should balance out where, you can stretch your mortgage out again, or, if the rental income continues to go up, then, you'll eventually cash flow or break even. In terms of a tenant, you asked for a tenant as well, right?
Yeah,
Or
like how does a
seller.
tenant, yeah, like when you're a tenant today, if I'm competing with 6 other offers,
Mhm.
how do I make sure that I look good in front of a landlord? What would it mean for a landlord to select me over the other 5 offers that you might be looking at?
Mhm. One is obviously looking at the competitive rental rates, right? If the rates are going for 3,500 and there's 10 offers on the table, there's no way you're getting a haircut on the price. And have all your documents ready. I can't tell you the number of times where agents send me just the offer, no income documents, no credit report, no rental application, and me balancing out the other 9 offers on the table. I don't really have time to babysit to make sure that you have all your documents on the table. It's very straightforward. On most listings, the listing broker would say these are the documents that are required. And see if you can do something with the deposits to show that you're more serious, or arrange a Zoom call with the landlord. That's something that is very hard to see on paper. Everything could be perfect on paper, or everything can be bad on paper, but I think ultimately it comes down to the character and the tenant, right? So I always tell my landlords that it's not always about the price, right? If someone's offering you 4,000 and someone's offering you 3,500, it might be even wise to go with that 3,500, just because how the tenant is, right? And whether how they are in terms of their past payments, how they are specifically in terms of character, and how they're going to be later on in terms of taking care of your property.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And with some of the due diligence, like it's getting really creative as far as I can see, where, if you don't have an up-to-date job letter, companies are taking a little bit longer to furnish those now.
Yeah.
So like you said, if you submit an application, it's like going through a drive-through and then realizing you've forgotten your wallet. You can't,
Right.
it's not going to work out, especially in a hyper-competitive environment.
Mhm.
And excuse me. So you've got the job, you've got the credit. And I think a big part of it too is the rental application. You've got to make sure that the history makes sense. Why are you moving from this property to the other property?
Exactly.
Is there a logical reason behind it? Because before, if you Google the tenant's name for privacy and security, you couldn't see any case if they were, taken to the tribunal. Now you can actually search tenants' names. So landlords are getting more and more savvy. And that's very interesting. So what I'm hearing is be prepared, make sure that your application looks good, make sure your story checks out so that it's easily understood by a landlord that's trying to make a decision in a very competitive environment.
And also bank statements could help too. If it shows some sort of substantial savings, or even the payroll coming in. If for some reason I can't verify your job letter, but I have your pay stubs, I might ask you for 3 months bank statements. And if you send me that, that kind of checks in, because I could cross-reference, the pay date and the payroll coming in. So just have those small documents ready. It's not really hard to obtain, especially specifically in a day and age where technology is so easy and savvy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we can really see the expertise that you and your team bring to the table, because the things that you guys are doing to vet tenants and to represent your landlords and to represent your tenants, even, having a good realtor in your court, especially during times like this, is more valuable now than ever. When properties sell themselves and things are happening on their own, clients feel like maybe they could do it without a realtor. But in times like this, especially, you really recognize the value of a good realtor that knows what they're doing.
Right. And again, it's always case by case, right? I mean, even last year, I took on a tenant that was a referral. And after looking at her financials, I'm like, you're in a better position to purchase. And I'm never a pushy realtor either. I'm like, these are your options as a renter, or, these are the options as a purchaser. I'll leave it with you. And a week later, she went ahead and got pre-approved, and she's like, hey, Kokilan, this is how much I'm pre-approved for. This is where I want to look. And she eventually bought a condo where, she's building some appreciation, the mortgage pay down, and just the flexibility of having your own property and no risk of being kicked out later. And even this year, after I did my last lease, it made me wonder, how much are my landlord tenants expecting to make in the next 12 months? Out of the 6 leases, just this year, those 6 landlords are expecting to make around $204,000. And if you look at last year and this year, they're at about $461,000.
That's incredible. You can't get that in the GIC anywhere. So that's an amazing
100%.
investment. Makes sense.
100%.
All right. Thank you so much, Kokilan, for taking
No
the
problem.
time. Guys, again, it's Kokilan Masewaren from Paper Plains Group from Remax Metropolis. We'll put the contact details below. If you need more insights on renting, whether you're a landlord, tenant, you're looking to buy or sell, connect with Kokilan and his team. They're experts in what they do. We're happy to help you out. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
Thank you so much, Ricky.